Hi, I'm Brad Isaacson with Isaacson Arms. I want to show you some of the goodies that we got. This is our first YouTube video, by the way. About 2 weeks ago, I was at a gun show in St. Charles, Missouri. I picked up these two high powers. And what caught my attention on these were they were consecutive numbered. This one is 85629. This one's 85630. An interesting story behind these guns. I bought them from a guy who had a CNR license, Curio and Relic. One of them has an import marking and one of them does not, which means these guns were separated at some point. This one came into the country, only God knows how it got in. This one came in through Inner Arms down in Houston, Texas. So that was kind of neat. These pistols, somehow between being made in the 50s, somehow got separated, then got brought back together. The gentleman I bought them from said he bought one in Louisville, and the other one came from, he bought it near the St. Louis area. Then when he got home, he realized they were numbers matching. So these guns spent probably close to 70 years apart and then ended up back together. So that was kind of a neat story, and I picked those up at the gun show, and it was the St. Charles Gun Show at the Convention Center, so I was real happy with that buy. Then I picked up, there was an auction I went to over the weekend. Langham Auction in Greenville, Illinois had a really nice auction. They had about 400 plus guns and a bunch of accessories. Now, this is just a cheap MagTech 22. I think it's a model 722. Yeah, right there, model 722. Nothing fancy about it, but it went cheap. It went for like 140 bucks. I thought I'd buy it as a shooter, so might sell it, might keep it, but for the money, who cares? It had some pretty wood on it. I was happy with that. So sometimes I snag them just because they make me happy. Then I bought this one for the business. This is your Norinco. It's hard to, in SKS, they don't really float my boat. They're not my favorite, but I bought it for inventory just to flip it. What caught my attention on this one is it's all numbers matching. You've got 507 on the top. Of course, on the side here, where's it at? Right there. And the stock match. It was all numbers matching gun. It came in the box. It caught my eye, so I snagged it. I think at the auction I got it for like 400 bucks. It wasn't a steal, but it was inventory put in the shop. All right. Then I snagged this. This is a Browning A5. It's a Japanese gun, but what made me buy it was it had the right barrel with it. It's got an invector barrel, so you've got screw and chokes. It's a 26-inch barrel, so it's going to make a heck of an upland bird gun. I'm thinking about sending this over to Art's Gun Shop and having them do a restoration on it. They're some of the finest of what they do. That's my dad, so can't call him anything bad. I'll get in trouble. This one here, someone had redone the wood on it. They didn't do the best job, but they didn't hurt anything. They didn't hurt the checkering. They didn't take it down flush. But if you look at the receiver, all that little frosting, that'll clean up. We'll make this gun look like new again. And I'll get this thing out on the market. I didn't steal this thing. I paid 600 bucks for it, which is probably about what it's worth in this kind of condition. But when it's all cleaned up and it's got the wood all prettied up and the receiver's been re-blued, I think I can get close to 6 out of this thing. And it came in the correct box. It also included, I'm a sucker for the paperwork, I don't know why, but came with your booklet and your choke tubes. Also on the back of your choke tube chart, it gives you all the parts numbers and, anyway, I'm a sucker for it. Like I said, I like the paperwork almost as much as I like the guns. I like having all the booklets and all the extra goodies with them. So I snagged that one. That one's going to be, it'll be a restoration. We'll get it on the market, but it'll be probably 3 or 4 months before I ever get it back. All right. So, if you couldn't tell by the beginning of the video, I like high powers. So I snagged, at the auction, 4 high powers. And what's better than 4 high powers? Having 5 high powers. All right. So, here's the first 2. This one had been re-blued. It's been serviced before. And if you pay attention right on top, you have your import marking. I think this was one that was issued to the Chinese Army. Well, if you want to call it the Chinese Army, but whatever their name is. Snagged this one. Someone had done a pretty nice job on it. Came with a box, an extra magazine. The other one was quite a bit rougher. I didn't have to pay as much for it. But it's an auction. You never know how things are going to go. They could go sky high. You just never know. This one's quite a bit rougher. You can still see the import marking on top, but it's pretty darn hard to see. You know, actually, one of the first things... This one, I'm on the fence about just selling it the way it lays or having it cleaned up. It would make a good restoration candidate because this thing would look like new again. Both these guns were numbers matching. Everything matched. The barrel, the slide, the frame. Like I said, they had the box with them, which... Now, here's kind of a neat thing. Now, this is a later production, probably 90s. Got to look up the serial number. Came in the right box. This one is extremely clean. I was real happy with it. And if you lay these two pistols side by side, you'll see quite a few differences. The later models had an external extractor, and the early models had an internal extractor. That's how you can tell kind of a ballpark on what year they were made. You'll also notice there's a pin in here that holds some of the internals together, whereas this one has those goofy plates they put on it. But anyway, they're the same gun, just this one's a much later production. So I snagged those. Like I said, who doesn't like a high-power pistol? People think I'm crazy, but I kind of like the high power over the 1911. And it's going to be kind of a, you know, a lot of people in the gun world are diehard, and there's nothing wrong with the 1911, but I like the 13-round capacity of the high power. Also, like 9mm is cheap to shoot, and on top of that, it's easier on the wrist. So, kind of a sucker for that. While I was buying pistols, I also snagged. These are getting hard to find. This is your Browning BDA. Pretty clean gun. You also notice a lot of these are missing the emblems. That one's still intact. That one's still intact. This one was pretty darn clean. Came with a holster. These things have really shot up in value, and came with an extra magazine, and who doesn't like that? It's always good. Saves a guy a few bucks down the road from having to buy an extra. Alright, what else did I snag? Oh, the high power in the gray case also include an extra magazine, extra grips with it, which I like those grips much better. These don't do anything for me. I know someone out there is going to like them, but I think I'm going to put the factory grips back on that gun, and I don't know, it's just a classic look on those old high powers. I think it's the best way to go. So before I sell that gun, I'll probably put the correct grips back on it, and then, you know, I'll include the extra grips with it, which would be nice for the next guy buying it. Alright. So I snagged those, and I snagged this nice little Browning Satori. Now this thing's like a 99% gun. There's one thing I have to do before I get this gun on the market. This rear sight's got to go. Now it just clamps onto the barrel, which I do like. They didn't drill anything in the barrel. All I got to do is remove those Allens, pull that. I might leave the high-vis sight back on it. It's only one screw. The next guy can change that out. Actually, you know what? I will remove it. That annoys me enough. I'll just put a bead back on that. It won't take much to do that. Just 5 minutes worth of work. But what really caught my attention on this old 12 gauge, if you look carefully here on the barrel, 12 gauge, 2 3/4, 3 inch, and 3.5. So that's a 3.5 inch chamber 12 gauge. On the Satoris, those are really hard to find. So I was quite happy to snag this one at the gun show, or at the auction. Like I said, Langham Auction put on a really nice auction. When I go to an auction, sometimes it's a complete waste of my day. Sometimes I make out like a bandit. This particular case, I bought a total of like 8 guns and a few accessories, and I did all right. Not bad for sitting there all day. Save the best for last. All right. This is your Browning Satori, grade 6. It's got the English stock. Look at this wood on it. This gun, I haven't even taken the time to wipe it down yet. It's got a gorgeous piece of wood. Look at that engraving on it. And this gun is extremely clean. It's going to be a 90. It just needs to be wiped down and clean. This is a 99% gun. 26-inch barrels. The gun is tight as a drum. This gun's hardly ever, I don't think, well, it's probably been shot, but it hasn't been much. It's also got Invector Plus tubes, so it's got the 2.5-inch choke tubes. This to me was the prettiest one that well, it's not even in question. This was the prettiest gun I snagged by far. I had to give like $2,600 for it. King Don is apparently upset. Hey Don, relax, we're making a YouTube video. Alright, anyway, that's what we snagged. This is our first video from Isaacson Arms. Don, seriously, you are not the star, I am the star. Me! Okay, I think he's done. Anyway, this is our first video for Isaacson Arms. We're going to be putting out more of these as we buy stuff. We like to show. It's kind of fun to go to these auctions and gun shows. You never know what we're going to snag. And if the camera person can get the attack dog over there, who wants all the attention, but he's not the important person here. Anyway, thank you for watching. We hope to have more of these videos. As we go to gun shows and auctions, we're going to show you what we drag back. And thanks.